Havana, March 1921. José Raúl Capablanca has almost reached his goal to attain the title of World Chess Champion. His opponent, Dr. Emanuel Lasker, World Chess Champion since 1894, traveled to Havana, Cuba like many world champions before him to defend his title. Lasker said of Capablanca, "From his moves you can read his thoughts, even when he is trying to deceive you. Whether he is playing for a draw or as a win, or is afraid of losing, his moves proclaim aloud what he feels. For all that, his moves, although transparent, are by no means obvious, and are often deep." That night, as the match was set to begin, this must have been the fruition of his destiny. As a small boy, a chess prodigy, this was inevitable. Capablanca. I know at sight what a position contains, what could happen, what is going to happen. You figure it out, but I know it. At the closing of the 19th century, Havana, Cuba, inheriting a culture of arts from Europe, becomes a chess center for the time. In 1885, the Havana Chess Club opened and was visited by many strong players. These included Wilhelm Steinitz, first world chess champion, who was crowned twice in Havana. The city possesses a strong chess culture. Born on November 19, 1888, Maria Matilde Grupera Marin gives birth to the son of Spanish officer José María Capablanca. They called the child José Raúl Capablanca y Grupera. The earliest account of Capablanca's origin to learning chess goes back to one that was published when he was 5 years old. At 4 years old, Capablanca said to his father, "I have learned the moves from the general, and if you want to lose, play with me." Young Capablanca was speaking of General Loño, a frequent chess opponent of his father. "We shall see," replied the father. The father and son then played a game, and in a few minutes, Capablanca had virtually captured all of his father's pieces and compelled him to resign. Capablanca's father begins to take him to the chess club of Havana at the age of 8, but he is not allowed to play frequently due to his doctor's belief, common at the time, that chess at an early age might be detrimental to a growing child. At the Havana Chess Club, young Capablanca started to play against adults, catching the attention of other players and the press, notably beating other international players who visited while giving young Capablanca's queen odds. In 1889, Capablanca was playing with his friends as his father spoke to businessman Ramon Pelayo de la Torriente. His mom asked young Capablanca to play a game with Don Ramon. Resisting at first, a few minutes later young Capablanca puts Ramon in checkmate and returns to his friends. On November 17, 1901, the Cuban National Chess Championship took place. Juan Corzo versus the child prodigy Capablanca. Corzo takes a fairly early lead and wins the first 2 matches. Capablanca lost the second match as he turned 13. It all seemed certain that Capablanca was going to lose, but match after match, young Capablanca improves.
Capablanca, in his young age, managed to play an interesting match against the Cuban champion Juan Corzo. In that match, one of the decisive games started with this opening. So Capablanca was playing with white pieces d4, and he selected for this game a very solid system that demonstrated the maturity of his games at that age. And the system is the Cole system. We are going to see the initial move. So d4, d5, knight f3, c5. In aggressive style, Corzo challenged the center immediately, but Capablanca solidified the d4 square with this modest move that seems to be that block that square bishop, but he is going to look for the alternative way to develop the bishop, looking for the fianchetto on the queens. So knight c6, normal developed move, b3, e6, and bishop b2. This is the called Zuckertur system. It's a very popular system actually, but this is probably one of the model games to learn how to play this opening. So knight f6, knight b d2, and now c takes d4, e takes d4. With this trade-off of pawns, probably black is hoping to create some pressure through the c file because the pawn on c2 can be considered a backward pawn. Also, I have some chance to push to c4 and after the trades play with hanging pawns. But the position used to be very dynamic. Also, the backward pawn can be supported with the bishop, and we are going to see that in the game. So bishop d6, bishop d2. Here, the location of the bishop here prepares short castle. Also, we have to say that the bishop here can be chased by the knight, but probably the knight jump to b4 can be a bit premature. In any case, maybe a more safe way to continue probably can be with this move, covering the b4 square to continue with bishop d3 and short castle. Also, it's very important to notice that despite this bishop is being blocked by the central pawn, it's useful to create the outputs on e5, while the black Lasker bishop is very blocked. At the moment, the use of that pieces is not too clear yet. Okay, so well, bishop d3, short castle, and now knight h5. With this move, probably he's looking for this square to try to put some pressure on the bishop in the same way how black could do that, jumping with the knight in the other flank. So black is ready to take the intersection point with the knight and cap up, push the pawn, covering the f4 square to prevent black's idea. So f5, this move suggests the creation of a strong outputs on e4, but Capablanca took the output sphere on e5. So when a minor piece, specifically the knight, takes the output, usually one of the best ways to react is just trading pieces of equal value. But in this specific case, the trade of the knights here can leave the knight in the edge of the board without the possibility to be regrouped. Okay, so for that reason, fears the Cuban champion Juan Corzo decides to retreat the knight to avoid half the knight misplaced in the edge of the board, and also that was under attack. And black is ready to take his own outputs on e4 as well. So here Kappa play f4, reinforcing the outputs on e5, but at the same time, this allows black block the file, because in this position, there is some potential pressure on the backward pawn on e6, but as soon as this knight gets the e4 square, that pressure will not be effective anymore. For that reason, probably a more flexible continuation in like a3. This is a thematic move in the cool Zuckertur system, just to prevent knight b4. But okay, Capablanca was too young, okay, probably not the same experience, and he did the move to reinforce his own outputs as well. That is a very logical move. And right now, we are going to see one of the probably most important inaccuracies of the game, the capture of the bishop on e5 right now. This is for sure an unfavorable trade of pieces, because as black pawn structure is on light square, the dark square bishop is very important. So pawn takes. Here the capture with the d pawn is also another possibility, but he was interested in open the file for the rook. So knight e4. This is another dubious move by black. Would be better just take the outputs. The pawns are there ready to reinforce the creation of the outputs on e4, but he went for the other square. Now queen e2, positional pattern, one square away in the diagonal of the knight, used to be pretty safe, also connecting the rooks. So the move have a clear purpose. So now queen b6, putting pressure on d4. There is two attackers against only one defender. Knight f3, reinforcing, bishop d7. Black managed to connect the rooks again. Also, we have to consider that knight b4 was a move available. This is also typical middle game plans, trying to eliminate the most important bishop for white. Okay, but bishop d7, finally, Capablanca have no time to play a3 and prevent the knight jump to b4, king to the corner, h3, knight a6, and now queen f2, reinforcing. This concept is known as overprotection. 2 attackers, 3 defenders, so more defenders than attackers. So we have a case of overprotection. The overprotection allows more flexibility for the pieces in general. So now knight f7, and here king g2. White is preparing a potential rook transfer to the h file. So g5, and now g4. Okay, stopping, fixing the flank. Also reaching a rupture point that having the bishop pair makes sense, try to open the position. Knight e7, black decides to kick the tension, avoiding the tray of the pawns at the moment. Queen e3, putting more pressure on g5. Black decides to defend the pawn with rook g8, and now Capablanca did a centralization of the rook. Knight g6, looking for the outputs on f4, and here Capablanca decides finally to capture on f5, thinking that, okay, there is some possibilities to push the pawn to e6 with f4. Actually, this move really, despite it's quite logical, is a bit premature because black is going to have some interesting counterplay through the e file that the Cuban champion Juan Corzo didn't see during the game, but we are going to analyze the possibility. So here will be better for Kappa just kick the tension, playing a move like king to h1, moving the king away of a potential open file where the rook is aiming the king. So well, he trade, and here Corzo decides to take the outputs with check. When in a tempo, this is a quite logical move. The other alternative would have been capture of the pawn on f5, fork that looks very strong. Black have this intermediate move, winning a tempo, chasing the queen, and after the queen move, pinning the pawn with strong pressure on the pawn and potential counterplay because the queen is on the e file. So, but well, Corzo did the check. So king to h2, one square away in the diagonal of the knight. And now black decides to trade the knight for the bishop, a very logical move. And finally capturing on f5. But in this position, we have a material balance, 6 pounds against 6 pounds, but white pawn structure is, a bit more solid, really, with the passed pawn on the e file that is being supported by a rook from behind. In this position, it's very important for white try to liberate the diagonal for the dark square bishop because at the moment it's being blocked by 2 central pawns. And to do that, Capablanca just start the mobilization of the majority in the center of the board, hoping for some trades to open the diagonal for the dark square bishop. So Corzo tried to avoid the trade, playing queen e6, and this really was probably the decisive a decisive mistake because after the trade of the pawn on d5, finally Capablanca managed to remove the blockers of the dark square bishop. A better defense at this point, this is, and later, after the trade, bishop b5 with this scheme. Okay, yeah, this is the potential sideline. Okay, also the pawn advance to f4 makes some sense because it's removing the blocker for the bishop and also keeping some central tension, trying to take advantage of this possible diagonal. But well, okay, he did queen e6, and after the capture, queen takes e6. This is probably the move that he missed. Seems to be that black is controlling that square, but in case of bishop takes, white can simply sack the rook, and after the capture, finally white managed to remove the blocker of the bishop in the long diagonal with a strong discovery attack, winning the queen. Okay, so after the blocking with the queen, okay, pawn takes, queen takes, e6, bishop b5, intermediate move. So here probably Corzo was expecting a queen move, but Capablanca just trade the queen for 2 minor pieces. And the justification of this is that finally can open the diagonal with check. This rook is going to be pinned. And here after the capture, there is an output on the background for the rook and also a very strong pin in the diagonal. So for sure, white have an enormous compensation for the queen sacrifice, and the defense here is very difficult for black. Also, the knight is incoming here, capturing. The rook is getting the background, so for that reason, black cannot play a move like queen b3 to try to generate some kind of counterplay because the queen is vying to the defense of the background. The rook is getting the intersection point being supported by the pawn and taking the outputs there. So, okay, he did a6 just to kick the background cover. And after knight d4, okay, he started the mobilization of the rest of the pieces, looking for increase the pressure on the pin in the long diagonal. So here, okay, now queen takes on f5 and on f1, just trying to reduce the pressure and be able to eliminate the pawn on f7. But here we have an endgame with two minor pieces for the rook. Also, is very popular that Capablanca was one of the best endgame players in the history. So rook takes, knight takes, check, winning a tempo. And now all is about use the pass pawn. So starting the technical phase of the game. Okay, king g2, very accurate, covering the invasion squares in the open file to prevent counterplay, and also preventing that black managed to place the rook behind the pass pawn to control the pawn. So h5, black is trying to mobilize his majority, but that really is very slow. And also in case of the creation of a pass pawn, the king is already here to catch the pawn. So d6, g4, takes, and now bishop d5, looking for advance the pawn. Probably not yet, but easy idea. Okay, d7, rook d8, and now here, okay, a fantastic move, knight g8 check. I suppose that the idea of the move is do this maneuver to support the pawn. Okay, the knight is hanging, black capture the knight, but after bishop f6, now the bishop support the promotion square. So really, with the knight g8 move, what white did is liberation of space to be able to enable this diagonal for the dark square vision and create intersection point in the promotion square. So this is a fantastic move that demonstrates the high level in the technical phase of Capablanca, only with 12 years old. So takes, bishop f6, king g6, and after the promotion of the pawn, really the rest is matter of technique. And this was one of the first important victories in Capablanca's career, only with 12 years old, defeating the Cuban champion at that moment.
At the age of 13, Capablanca defeated Corzo to become the youngest Cuban national champion. In 1904, Capablanca graduated high school in philosophy. After graduating, Don Ramon Pelayo decides to finance Capablanca's higher education in the United States, with the possibility of Capablanca working for him afterwards. Pelayo's only condition was that he could not play chess. That summer, at the age of 18, he travels to New York to study chemical engineering at Columbia University. There, he plays baseball and is captain of the Columbia Chess Club. This leads him to the Marshall Chess Club, where he once again beats the strongest players and was considered the chess club's #1 player. Writing to his mother about his schooling and success at chess, he mistakenly mixes the envelopes and sends the letter meant for his mother to Don Ramon Pelayo. Having read the letter, Don Ramon withdraws all of his financial support from Capablanca, forcing him to leave Columbia University after one semester. Frank James Marshall, after returning from abroad, is displeased at all of the attention the young Capablanca is receiving. Marshall, being U.S. champion and having played for the World Chess Championship before, finds Capablanca to be an upstart and challenges him to a match.
The next game was the game that opened the doors to Capablanca to the international scenario. He played against the American champion, Frank James Marshall, an interesting match. Thanks to the results in this match, he managed to participate later in very important international competitions. So one of the most important games of this match, in many different aspects, even in the theoretical point of view, because Capablanca played a very classical opening, the Rey Lopez, and Marshall used the Marshall attack. So what better to see Frank James Marshall using the Marshall attack. So let's start with this, e45, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5. Here we have the Rey Lopez, a6 Morphy defense, bishop a4, knight f6, short castle, bishop d7. Okay, all theoretical move. Here, black is delaying the advance of the d pawn because wants to preserve the option to go to d5 directly. That is what probably the most important feature of this attack. So rook e1. When the rook is on e1, defending the pawn, white is ready to trade the bishop for the knight and to win the pawn. So rook on e1, time to push the pawn. bishop b3 short castle, and now c3, looking for the central expansion on d4. So with the pawn on c3, the queenside knight cannot be developed in the normal way. For that reason, black is motivated to do a pawn sacrifice, trying to take advantage of the fact that the white queenside development is delayed at the moment. Another interesting alternative for white, if white wants to avoid the martial attack, is play h3. That will be part of the normal system, but without give to black the possibility to do the same d5 move, because the knight can go to c3 later, okay, developing the queenside in a normal way. That's a very important difference to remember. So c3 d5, this is the move that starts the martial attack. So the alternative for black will be just d6, playing the closed system of the real open. So d5, pawn takes, knight takes. Now we can see the sacrifice of the pawn. And here, from martial play, knight f6. The main move actually in this position is reinforce the knight with the pawn to continue later with bishop d6, and after the retreat of the rook, take the invasion square with the queen to create some intersection points and to attack with all those minor pieces and the queen on the king. This is one of the main positions, okay, of this variant. Very dynamic, difficult for both players, difficult defense for white, difficult for black to kick the dynamics and the compensation of the material sacrifice, okay? But in the game, Marshall decides to retreat the knight to f6. What actually is a very curious move, but basically the idea of this is continue with the same, but with the knight here, there is some possibilities to create some grid gift patterns. That is basically the idea of the knight retreat. Those grid gift patterns are possible because white don't have the main defender of the kingside castle, and also this diagonal is still blocked to come here to cover the h2 square. So rook e1, okay, the standard retreat, bishop d6. Black is, right now, it would be black to move, the sacrifice of the bishop, followed by the knight John and the queen taking the invasion square. All this sequence of moves is a very popular tactical pattern, the grid gift. So in order to prevent that, Capablanca play h3, removing the target and covering the g4 square. Here, a surprising move. Here, Marshall decides to jump with the knight to g4 anyway, because really that knight is poisoned, and Capablanca didn't capture the knight, playing queen f3 to try to consolidate the kingside. Also, we can see how the development of the queenside is behind, especially because the c3 square is being occupied by the pawn at the moment. So a critical variant here will be pawn takes, queen here, g3, but after the sacrifice, followed by bishop takes on g4, the bishop comes to h3 later, and the attack is too strong. This is an absolutely winning position for black. So this is, for that reason, the martial attack is too dynamic. So, okay, Capablanca didn't capture there, so queen h4, and now d4, creating some space for the dark square bishop and also the queenside knight. And here knight takes on f2, okay, black continue playing in the same style, restoring the material balance because capture a pawn. Okay, but here in this position it's still very important that white have more space and the central pawn. So here the capture of the knight no is possible yet, because here Capablanca played rook e2, increasing the pressure on the knight to try to, okay, to force the knight to leave that square. But here a critical variant will be, okay, what about queen takes? Because seems to be like after queen takes, bishop g3 create an skewer here, but actually bishop g3 will be a blunder because allows this very popular background mate, because the rook cannot come back due to the pin in this diagonal. So for that reason, in this position, after the capture, that seems to be a winning variant after bishop g3, really is not, because black can just play this brilliant continuation, bishop h2 check. The idea is just deflect the king from the protection of the queen. If the king capture, the queen is going to be hanging. So this is a unique move to be able to kick the queen defended, but now the history is different, because after bishop g3, a queen takes, rook takes, white don't have time to do the checkmate because the capture on f7 is with check. Okay, so this will be a very important difference. Okay, so for that reason, Capablanca decides to avoid all the complications derived from this variant and playing just this normal move, rook e2. So now bishop g4, very dynamic, continue with more sacrifice, and here there is no more option than just accept the challenge and capture the pieces. So bishop h2, king to f1, and bishop g3. So black enable the file for the queen, trying to do a background mate. Okay, and here white have to capture the knight in order to enable the e2 square for the king to escape from the background maze. Queen h1, king e2, bishop takes, and here, after the capture, the recapture of the bishop no is a good idea because black can capture here, attacking the base of the pawn chain in the other flank. For that reason, Capablanca just decides to move the bishop, removing the target for the queen, and being ready to consolidate the position in the center of the board, because seems to be that there is no option to incorporate the knight and the rook, but a thematic move in this variance of the Ruy Lopez in the martial attack is reach the rook to pawn on a4 to trade pawns and activate the rook without bringing the rook to the center of the board. And we are going to see that Capablanca did that at some moment in the game. So bishop h4, queen h3. Okay, trying to simplify. As black have material disadvantage, avoid the simplifications. Queen f1, keeping the pieces on the board, king c2. Also, we have to say that the king on the light square is pretty safe because black have a dark square bishop and there is no possibilities to attack the king in that corner. So bishop f2, queen f3, pinning the bishop, queen g1, bishop d5. Okay, here the idea of this move is just enable some space, okay, for the b pawn to try to start a mobilization of the pawns on the queen side. But actually here, probably a more logical move will be just the thematic a4 to trade pawns and incorporate the rook. Capablanca did that, but in a different order. Okay, bishop d5, c5, takes, and finally, okay, b4, winning a tempo. Now we can see the idea of the bishop d5 move, just enable space for the pawn, and now a4, the thematic rook tour, to be able to incorporate the queenside rook that was out of the game during a while. So a5, okay, pawn takes, here rook a6. Taking the invasion square, taking the outputs, putting pressure in the pieces hanging, so pawn takes, while recapture with the less value pieces, and after bishop b4, b6. So this is a very thematic move. There is a quote that says, passed pawns must be pushed, because this is the way for white to create his own counterplay on the queens. So bishop takes c3. Okay, these simplifications favorites white. Okay, bishop takes. And now here, there is now a lot of threats, okay, on the king side. The bishop pair is aiming there. So black play a6, probably trying to anticipate some potential background issues. And after b7, white continue with his own agenda, just pushing the pass pawn. Now rook e3, a forced move, threatening the queen. But here white have a strong surprise, the capture on f7 with check. So this route cannot capture the bishop because white can promote a new queen with check. So in this moment, Marshall realized that after king to the corner, white is going to have an amazing checkmate, and for that reason decides to resign the game here. Okay, but let's see the beautiful checkmate. After king to the corner, the rook can just capture an a6 with a kind of background mate, but okay, in the edge of the board, because the pawn on g7 is pinned by the bishop on c3. This game was one of the most important games in Capablanca's career, and after this, he's received many new invitations for very important tournaments at that moment.
Marshall's supporters did not want the Cuban to get the title of U.S. champion, and midway through the match, wanted it stopped. The match continued, and Capablanca defeated Marshall to become the first Pan-American champion. Having beaten Marshall, the doors to international play were open to him. Notably, the San Sebastian tournament of 1911, which was, at the time, the strongest tournament to be held. However, there was some objection to Capablanca being invited. The prerequisite being to have played in an international tournament. The biggest detractor to his play was Osip Bernstein. Marshall stood up for Capablanca though. saying whoever beat him like Capablanca beat him had a right to be there. Winning the San Sebastian tournament of 1911, Capablanca was seen as a serious contender for the World Chess Championship title. Challenging Lasker, the match did not take place over objections Capablanca had over certain conditions. In September 1913, Capablanca accepted a job in the Cuban Foreign Office, where his only duty was to play chess abroad. During this time, Capablanca toured the world playing in tournaments and gave simultaneous exhibitions, all the while still pursuing the world chess crown. At the 1914 St. Petersburg chess tournament, Tsar Nicholas II awarded the title of Grand Master for the first time in history to the 5 finalists: Lasker, Capablanca, Marshall, Alekhine, and Tarrasch. Dr. Emanuel Lasker, world chess champion, was determined the winner of the tournament. In January 1920, after World War I had ended, Dr. Lasker and Capablanca again began talks to decide who would be the world champion. They signed an agreement to play in Havana in 1921.
After a long journey to be able to get the top level of chess in the world, finally Capablanca managed to challenge the undefeated world champion Emanuel Lasker in a very interesting match for the world title. We are going to see one of the most important and decisive games of this match. So in this game, Capablanca was playing with black pieces, and as usual, he decides to select a classical setup against Emanuel Lasker opening. Lasker starts the game with d4, and Capablanca responds with d5. So we have now the Queen's Gambit and e6. This is the Queen's Gambit decline. Black didn't capture the pawn on c4 and just defend the center in a solid way. So knight c3, knight f6, bishop g5, bishop e7, pretty standard, and now e3. So short castle, knight f3, and here knight b, b7. In this kind of position, one of the main troubles for black is going to be the Lasker bishop being blocked by e6 and b7. And now white play here and move queen c2. In some case, the most natural continuation probably will be just move the bishop, but in some case, white wants to delay the move of the bishop, hoping that black capture on c4 and be able to recapture with the bishop, only moving the bishop one time. So for that reason, move like queen c2 or rook c1 are very common in order to delay the development, hoping to capture on c4 using only one tempo. So for that reason, white play queen c2. Also, this is a useful move in the future that can allow white connect the rooks. And now, after the queen c2 move, Capablanca decides to push the pawn to c5, trying to open the position, taking advantage of the fact that the white king is still in the middle of the board. Also, this move tried to liquidate the center, because before the central reaction, white have a slight advantage of space due to the more central pawns, okay? These couple of pawns, d4, c4, and black have only one on d5. So after the c5 move, all the center of the board is ready to disappear after all those massive simplifications. So rook d1, okay, here we have an x-ray, okay? The rook is attacking the queen through all these pieces, and Capablanca just remove the queen from the x-ray, following the positional pattern, pinning the knight, and is still one square away of the knight. So bishop d3, finally white looks for complete development, and really this move allows black decide the structure of the center of the board. Instead of bishop d3, probably would be better for white the capture on d5, and after the recapture with the knight, trading the bishop that is in the same corner of the central pawn on e7 and playing this position with a better Lasker bishop. The position is still more or less balanced, but white managed to keep a small edge in this case. So, well, he did bishop d3. Now, Capablanca incorporate this move that is very useful to remove the target and to enable a potential escaping square in the endgame, avoiding some background issues. So now, after bishop h4, black decides to liquidate the center, in a very specific way in order to create an IQP for black. So now, in this position, okay, this is a situation of an IQP that is giving to white more space. There is still a lot of minor pieces on the board, but black is ready to control the d5 square in a very good way, because also one of the plans of the pair that have the IQ piece just push the pawn to get rid of the potential weakness on the endgame. But Capablanca dig knight b6, winning a tempo and also reinforcing the control in front of the IQ piece. So now bishop b3, bishop d7, completing the development of the last pieces. So those kind of advance are risky because the king is still in the middle of the board. So after short castle, rook ACA, pinning the knight, rooks belongs to open files and semi-open files, and now white took the outputs. Okay, Lasker took the outputs. This is a thematic idea in position with IQP because the IQP give more space, so also give to the player the possibility to create outputs. Okay. In other hand, D4 becomes even weaker than before because it's losing a defender for sure. At the moment, there is no pressure there, but it's something that have to be considered. And now, Capablanca, in a very good style, play bishop b5. So what in the opening was a very bad bishop being blocked by the pawn structure, after the liquidation of the pawn in the center of the board, there is some new diagonals available. And now this bishop start to be pretty active. So rook f e1, knight b d5. Black is ready to start to simplify because the knight on c3 is pinned. It's very instructive the way how Capablanca played this game. So bishop takes, okay, and now two minor pieces disappear from the board. So with less pieces on the board, basically the attacking chance for white start to disappear, and the weakness of the IQP becomes more relevant. Queen b3, okay, black retreat the bishop, allowing this trade, but now recapturing with the pawn. You know, with the less value pieces used to be the best. I know that this move looks a bit ugly in a first glance because separating the pawn structure, creating an IQP, but really any other character, for example, with the knight allows the advance d5, and white managed to get rid of the IQP. So with the character of the pawn, black can reinforce the control in front of the IQP, and also the pawn on c6 is too square away of the knight on c3. So now rook e5, Lasker took the outputs on e5 with the rook, winning a tempo over the queen, and now queen b6. About this trade of queens, this allows black reorganize the structure. So Lasker prevent that, and here Capablanca developed the last minor pieces, rook to the open file, increasing the pressure on the IQP that is hanging at the moment. So now knight e2, protecting the pawn, and rook d5. Using, okay, this no is an output by concept because no is in enemy territory, but it's a strong location for the rook being supported by 2 pawns from behind. Okay. Now after the trade of rooks, he can just reorganize the pawn structure, and black have a favorable ending where, you know, black have only 2 island pawns against 3, and this will be a chronicle weakness that is going to be under pressure from now till the rest of the game. So queen d2, knight f5, increasing the pressure there. So b3, and now h5. Okay, this is a useful move to prevent some g4 move in the future, dislodging the knight from this location. And after h3, thematic reaction. Okay, this pawn fixes the flank. Okay, so now queen d3, queen 1 square away in the diagonal of the knight, used to be good. Rook c6, king f1. White start to centralize the king. Yeah, we can say that this is a kind of queen endgame, probably not yet because there is still a couple of pieces on the board, but you know, we are very close to that, to an endgame properly. Okay, so now g6, more waiting move, just improving the position. Queen b4, and now, okay, Lasker is doing just kind of waiting move, being very patient. And finally, Capablanca decides to start active operations from the queen side. And with this pawn advance, he's looking for the rook to point, starting a kind of minority attack, okay? Because there is 1 versus 2 in this flank. The idea of the minority attack is be able to open the file against the base of the pawn, because at the moment there is no possible pressure on the base of the pawn chain. But for example, trading these pawns will be easier for black attack the b pawn because will be without base supporting it. Okay, so queen b2 a4, queen d2, black is happy to trade queens, and finally trading pawns, creating the new weakness. Now 2 weakness, d4 and b3. So rook b6, attacking on b3, and now rook d3, rook a6, shuffling the rook, looking for the invasion squares. Now g4, pawn takes, takes, and here after this modification of the pawn structure, there is some chance for black to create some passed pawns, playing f6, a5, and after the trade, there is two connected passed pawns in the center of the board. So rook a2, okay, taking the invasion square, attacking the knight, and after those moves, black continue improving the location of the pieces, and finally, at this moment, he plays the rook behind the pass. Remember? Okay, king e2. Now rook takes on b3, tactical trick. If white capture the rook, there is this fork, winning another pawn, so king e3. And now, okay, rook b4. In this position, the trade of the rooks is logical, okay, according to the principle, but at the same time, that is going to create a easier defense for white, especially considering that black rook at the moment is more active. Okay, so rook b4, keeping some pressure on the IQP, knight c3, knight e7, check, and now g5. Okay, now we are going to see how Capablanca started the mobilization of his own majority in the center of the board. Now he took the output. Okay, and after some checks, he finally started the mobilization of the central pawns. First, improving the location of the king to the center of the board, endgame principle, and now, after some useful waiting move, he pushed the pawn. Okay, now using his central majority and trying to create a pass pawn that will be the decisive factor in the game to put the final pressure. So, rook d3, okay, pawn takes, and now the king attacked the rook. Black is ready to start to push the pawn. d4, placed pawn must be advanced. Rook c1 check, king d5, and after this, d3, d2 is incoming. That is just imminent. Here, for example, knight f3, face this check, winning material. At the same time, a move like knight e2 probably is possible for black just push the pawn. Okay, so nothing to do at this moment. Emanuel Lasker decides to resign the game, and with those results, Capablanca managed to become in the new world champion, finishing with a reigning of Lasker during 27 years old. That was a record in the chess history. For sure, this was a very important moment for all the chess community at that age, and for us, in the historical point of view.